right, Archie?
Yeah, so Tuesday morning is Cabinet morning, and busy agenda on today, roughly 30 items, a lot of them routine, but some that are quite significant. There's a memo being brought by Minister Ryan and Minister Chambers to put in place further financial support for the haulage sector, worth about €18 million. The haulage sector is vital to our economy, helps us to get the goods that we need, helps to get our exports out to market. They're facing increased energy costs like all businesses, and this is a further intervention to help them out. There'll also be a memo from the Taoiseach in relation to the St Patrick's Day visits. It'll be a full programme this year. Almost all ministers are travelling. An opportunity to mark 100 years of statehood, 50 years in the European Union, but also crucially 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, which has brought peace to our island. The Chief Whip will have proposals on the Citizens' Assembly on drug use. Hope to have that set up in the next couple of months. The Dublin government one is done, as is the one on biodiversity loss nearing its conclusion. So moving on to the next one, and plans for one education as well down the line. Nothing specifically on the agenda today around the cost of living. Obviously we'll be working on that over the course of the next week, and should be able to sign off on any decisions at Cabinet next Tuesday.
In relation to VAT and decisions that when the decision on that the hospitality sector was decided.
Yeah, so there'll be further meetings this week involving the key ministers, finance, public expenditure, social protection, and the party leaders. And we'd anticipate being in a position to make decisions at next week's cabinet meeting. Anything we do does require a finance bill, so that'll have to be done quite quickly next week. What I've said before, and I'll say again, is that people won't see a cliff edge in terms of the financial supports being removed, because the cost of living remains very high. Inflation is slowing, which is a good thing, but the cost of living remains very high, and the things that we've done to help with the cost of living can't be repeated forever, but we don't want it to end suddenly either, so we're looking at how best to begin to phase them out over the course of the months ahead.
The government sent a memo to many departments looking for help for accommodation for people arriving in this country, and there doesn't seem too much of a people putting their hands up to help. Are you disappointed that more departments haven't come together? Yeah,
to be honest, I don't think that's a fair representation of the facts. A letter was issued, and government departments hadn't replied within, I think, 5 or 6 days. Don't know about you, but sometimes it takes more than 5 or 6 days to get a letter and reply to it. I know government departments have replied very favourably to previous calls for buildings, and that includes student accommodation from the Department of Higher Education, sites like Thornton Hall from the Department of Justice. We know the Army is helping out with some of their facilities. The HSC has put forward proposals as well. But I don't think we should underestimate the really difficult job that Minister Gorman and his team have. We've seen nearly 100,000 people arrive in the country in the past year, mostly from Ukraine, but also from other parts of the world. We've managed to provide shelter, accommodation, heat, food, education, healthcare for almost all of those. You know, it is an extraordinary response if you think about it. No country in Western Europe has done as much as us when it comes to helping Ukrainians, so we need to see it in the round. But people are still arriving, roughly 3,000 a month, again, mostly from Ukraine, but some from other parts of the world as well. And that means there'll be additional demand for more accommodation across the course of the year. Hard to put a figure on it, but you know, something in the region of 30 or 40,000 people arriving this year seeking international protection or coming from Ukraine, and that means a huge need to find additional accommodation. We do have a group that's being led by the Department of the Taoiseach. Former city and county manager from Limerick is heading that, and that's all about refurbishment, so we should see over 2,000 units being provided through refurbishments over the course of the year, and of course the modular housing that becomes a reality in the next couple of weeks as well, aiming for 700 this year and ramping up next year if we can.
Could I just ask you in relation to welfare supports, I know a number of members of opposition are calling for linkers to child benefit in particular. Obviously very start point, it was in a Bernardo's survey last week, 1 in 10 families having to avail of additional food, free food to feed their kids, and also as well to go and themselves. Obviously a lot, in particular maybe families as well that are working families, not receiving any additional social welfare supports. Will you be taking that into consideration with any additional welfare supports?
I did see that survey. We'll certainly take it into consideration. Spent a lot of time at Bernardo's in the last couple of weeks in my constituency. Very much appreciate the work that they're doing. I would wonder about the scientific basis of that survey. 1 in 10 families using food banks would be over 200,000 families using food banks. I'm not sure that's correct. And when I read the survey, I saw that most people who were asked to participate in the survey didn't respond. So I'm not sure if that figure is correct. But whether it's correct or not, I suppose, isn't necessarily the point. Nobody doubts that there has been an increase in the number of families struggling to make ends meet. We had seen poverty fall year on year in Ireland for a number of years, and because of the cost of living crisis, that's gone backwards, and that's a big problem. And you can help people in different ways. Certainly the increase in the minimum wage and the pay increases has helped a lot since January. The tax reductions and reductions in the amount of income tax and other taxes people have to pay have helped too, and then obviously reducing things like the cost of childcare and public transport has helped as well. But notwithstanding all of that, it is very clear to me that a lot of families are struggling. A lot of people in social welfare and pensioners are struggling too, because in a lot of cases the increases in income, tax reductions and increases in welfare have been enough to meet inflation, which is running about 7 or 8%, but that isn't true for everyone. And that is why we are going to have some targeted measures that particularly help those who need it the most, like pensioners, like people on social welfare payments, and also working families too.
And just in relation to the document that you reported yesterday on this as well, so ending Oregon an addition or a separate report to cabinet in relation to private rental accommodation. I suppose as well, it seems that the take up for the tax credits seems to be lower than anticipated. Why do you think that is? Do you think that maybe it's a case there are a lot of people that are renting under the radar, so to speak?
We don't know for sure. The rent credit was put in place to help renters with the very high cost of paying rent. It's €500 per taxpayer, so if you have 3 people renting, it's €1,500. For a lot of people, it'll be the best part of a month's rent. I think we've had about 170,000 applications in so far, so it is ticking up, and we're making sure that that's advertised and that people know that that's available. Something, if the public finances allow, we'd like to build on in the years to come. There is some anecdotal evidence of people who are renting from an unregistered landlord, and that's obviously a real difficulty for renters who can't claim as a result of that. But if somebody is an unregistered landlord, it's probably the case that they're not paying their taxes, and that their property isn't properly registered and regulated. So we can't reward that. We need to make sure that those properties are properly registered.
All right, thank you.
Right, thanks a lot.
How are you?